In today's episode, we're going to be exploring the psychology found in the body swap film trope. Specifically, we're going to look at this concept of identity formation, and then we're going to look at life satisfaction, both from a discontentment side as well as life contentment. I'm Jonathan Hetterly, a licensed professional counselor, and this is Psych Cinema. Psych Cinema is Shrink Tank's video series where I explore the psychology found in the films that I watch and love. Now, with the recent DC superhero movie Shazam bringing it back to light, body swap films have been a very popular way of a fish out of water type of trope.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the young people.
We've seen this in the classic Tom Hanks film, Big. We've also seen it in the Jennifer Garner romantic comedy, 13 Going on 30. And even recently, Japan had an animated sensation called Your Name, where the two characters did a body gender swap as well. You also see this a lot of times with time travel films or alternate reality type of films or television shows.
You know what I do in those situations?
What?
I don't worry.
'Cause I'm broken.
So specifically, we're going to look at identity formation, discontentment, and contentment. So when we think about identity formation, Erik Erikson developed this psychosocial stages of development, and he came up with this category, the fifth stage, where it was about identity versus role confusion. And that really happens during the teenage years, where we begin to start to look ahead to find our place in society and start to cultivate our life experiences to figure out where we fit, whether it be in terms of social relationships, whether it be careers and occupations, whether it be interests. So this idea of a body swap to all of a sudden become an adult without that type of life experience can really disrupt somebody's identity formation and how they think and understand things. It's great trope for cinema because you get to see people being very clumsy and knowing that somebody's young but trying to navigate adult experiences. But from a developmental standpoint, that would really be probably more traumatizing and scary than it would be comedic in a lot of ways. Now, Erik Erikson didn't have another stage of life development that current psychologists suspect that as a society we've evolved to where there's a new stage called emerging adulthood. Because what we're seeing is in today's culture, young people are not transitioning into adulthood till later on in life. And so with that, there becomes this extension of identity formation and figuring out one's place in society. And that's really where emerging adulthood comes into place. And with emerging adulthood, what you see is this struggle between young people taking on responsibility versus diversion, or basically distraction, pushing off adult responsibilities as long as they can. That, I think, is one of the central things you see in body swap films. You see people that have an adult body, in a lot of ways, acting childlike and immature, which makes sense why that would resonate in today's culture when adults seem to be stepping into adulthood and full independence a lot later than in previous generations. But that's not all that we can explore the psychology about body swapping films. They really all center around this idea of discontentment. It's really wish fulfillment and fantasy. Our brains are really wired to fixate and focus on the negative. So discontentment really is about daydreaming or fantasizing. If things were only different, if I went down this path versus this path. And with that comes even depression, because depression is really about feeling trapped about things you can't change from your past, but you also can't let go of. So you continually ruminate and obsess about how life would have been better if only things had been different. And that really is how our brains are wired. Our brains are wired to be very alert to threats. In the early days, that was really more about physical threats, but now it's really about psychological or emotional threats just as much as anything. And so our brain is wired to focus on the negatives more than the positives. Our brain is just designed to hold on to happiness not as long. There's no such thing as post-happiness best day ever, but we know there is something called post-traumatic stress disorder, where something really traumatic and negative can change the way your brain operates for its entire existence. And so when you think about these body swap films, there's always something like Josh Baskin in Big. He's too young. The girls seem to go for the older boys. And he wants to sort of like jump past all of those developmental experiences to become an adult. And that's really at the core of body swap or time travel or alternate realities, is this assumption that things would be better if they were only different. But if we know that the brain is always designed that way, what these films oftentimes show is that you can change the circumstances, change some things in the past. They don't always guarantee that you're going to be happier, because the brain is really wired to fixate on the negative, right? The grass is always greener. In my field of psychology, I come across young people all the time, they can't wait until they become older. And then I come across adults that wish they didn't have all the responsibilities and complexities of being an adult. And they wish they could go back to a more simple and innocent time of being a child or a teenager. So we're always struggling with being content and satisfied with where we are in that moment. And so that's really, I think, the biggest takeaway that body swap films can teach us in psychology, is how to curate contentment, inner peace. And there's really 3 ways we can look at that. The first is through just empathy, because when you do a body swap, you step out of your current situation, and sometimes you literally put yourself in someone else's shoes. And then that can help us gain perspective and see things differently, understand other people's struggles, which can add certain context and perspective to our own plights in life. But then I think one of the biggest things about body swap films and overall in life is developing this concept of acceptance, this ability to accept our life, warts and all, the good and the bad, rather than have most of our life fixated on things that we can't change, things that have already happened, or things that are out of our control. And as we're in a society that's struggling with anxiety, it's really about a culture that is suffering because we want more control and ability to direct every aspect of our life than a basic human being is really able to. And so the ability to accept, the ability to have that psychological flexibility is key to a meaningful and happy life. It's really about letting go of control. And then finally, when we come to contentment and life satisfaction, it's really about gratitude. When you look at these body swap films, once you change the makeup of reality, you don't just gain new positives, there's a collateral effect of the things that were good that sometimes you lose as a result of that change. And so gratitude really allows the person to be able to see all the good things that they have in their life in that moment. Even if there are negative things going on, even if there's hardship or pain and suffering, the ability to teach our brain how to see the good is crucial in having life satisfaction and contentment. Because not only will there always be negatives about life, but our brain is kind of predisposed to look for it. So the more that we can teach our brain to also look for the good, that's there. It's not false. It's not this hallmark, try to talk ourselves into things being better. It's really that ability to identify the goodness that's already in your life is key to life satisfaction. So I'm curious to hear from you all. There's so many body swap films out there. What is your favorite body swap film? And what did you find to be the central deep message or meaning in that film? So you can leave your comments below, and you can also recommend a film you'd like for us to tackle here on Psych Cinema. You can follow me on Twitter. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and click on the notification bell. Also, check out shrinktank.com, our website that you're going to find articles, videos, podcasts, polls, and more that explore the rich intersection of psychology and pop culture. That's going to be it for this episode of Psych Cinema. I'm Jonathan Hetterly. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon at the movies.